Hello, Wolfpack. You're probably watching this video right after or near Connect, which is cool because I'm actually in the audience at Connect right now. Not right now, I recorded this a while in the past, so I actually have no idea what's being talked about in the keynote speech right now. Are we gonna hear about the Quest 3's ability to launch an orbital strike on nearby planets? I mean, probably not, but maybe. Technology's wild. I can't talk about any of that, but what I can talk about is the Quest 3. You see, I was lucky enough to go to New York just a couple of weeks ago and play with the headset. So in this video, I'm gonna break down my impressions as best I can. I'm really not good with the technological mumbo jumbo, but as someone that plays VR daily, I think I have a pretty good idea.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And I'm also gonna talk about some of the games I played, which, yes, includes Assassin's Creed Nexus. So let's do this. So I'm gonna break this video down into different sections. There may not be chapters down there because I'm literally at Connect when you're watching this, but at some point in the future, I will have chapters so you can kind of jump around to what you wanna go. But we're gonna first talk about the physical look of the Quest 3. Now, this is purely opinion, and I've heard people say that this thing is ugly, but I actually think it's a pretty good looking machine. It's got this very thin faceplate, and then it has 3 black camera housings where it has the 2 pass-through cameras and a depth sensor in the middle. And I don't know, the whole package looks really cool. But one thing that really caught my eye when I first went there was the color customizations. That's right, the Quest actually will come in different color. Okay, that's not true. You will buy the Quest in black and white, but you can purchase additional packs that have color. It'll have a color of the faceplate and a color of the strap. You'll be able to choose between a salmon-y, I think they call it like a blood orange, and a cobalt blue, which was definitely my favorite and probably the one that I'll pick up. So the colors are nice, but the actual strap that they're coloring is a definite improvement from the original Quest 2, which is like, literally, here is the bar for the Quest 2, and you can't go lower because that head strap was just garbage. But this one is better. So instead of just a regular strap kind of going back, this one comes back and then separates into like an A-frame. So it actually kind of circles, you can't see anything, I don't know why I'm talking behind, you can't even hear me, but it like circles the point on the back of your head and supports it a lot better. You're probably gonna be getting rid of this strap at some point, but for an out-of-box experience, which is important, especially for people new to VR, it's significantly more comfortable. The facial cushion itself also got an upgrade. It's a lot more smooth, a little bit more velvety on the skin, instead of kind of the scratchy one that was on the Quest 2 in the original Quest. So I really liked that as well. There's also another Pro head strap. Will it break on the side near immediately? I don't know. I would assume at this point that they would fix some of those common breakages, but it looked relatively similar to the exact same one that was on the Quest 2, but you actually won't be able to use your old Pro strap because the headset on the side has the USB. I should grab my Quest 2. So here's what I'm talking about. This is my just hideous Quest 2. It's got the Vive head strap on it, and I actually really like this. But the Quest 3, the USB-C slot, which is normally right here, is actually on the strap on the side. So you won't be able to connect things over it because you're gonna wanna have access to that. Now this one could still potentially work because you can kind of wiggle it around and maybe expose that slot. But other head straps, I know the Bobo is actually coming out with like a retrofit, so it'll change the connection point, but you're gonna have to probably get a new one for your Quest 3 because of that connection right there. Now, putting on the headset, you're gonna notice pretty quickly that the center of gravity is no longer really resting on your forehead, coming down on your nose cheeks. It's definitely more centered on the top of your head. The weight itself actually feels pretty similar. I don't think you're gonna really notice a weight difference. But the fact that it's kind of molded different, things are kind of smushed up closer to your face with the head strap, so more of the weight is shifted backwards. So it definitely has a lot less pressure is the word I was looking for, on your cheeks and your nose. So it's more comfortable, but it's not like magnitudes more comfortable. As I was saying, things are squished up because they use a new pancake lens on the Quest 3. This allows them to get the lenses closer to your eyeballs instead of having them be angled away a little bit. Which does kind of increase the field of view. It's not a big noticeable difference. You still kind of feel like you're wearing the scuba mask, but it is a little bit better, especially because you can bring them closer. But for those of you with glasses and stuff, there's actually a cool switch on the inside of the Quest 3 interface. You just go and you kind of push down both and then push it forward and backward. So you no longer need a glasses spacer like you did with the Quest 2. You can adjust much better. And the same goes with the IPD adjustment. It has the wheel at the bottom just like the other one, and you can bring the lenses closer and further. Now the controllers I thought felt excellent. Like they were just molded for my hands. They're light, they're comfortable in your hand. There's a large surface area, which actually like you have the flat. I keep bringing on my old Quest 2 stuff. So you have like this flat surface, right? But instead of it just being completely flat, it actually dips downward a little bit, which allows you to like rest your thumb on the side of the controller a little bit. And for whatever reason, I don't know, it felt good in my hand.
That felt so good.
There's no ring like the Quest Pro controller. The Quest Pro controller did have cameras in there, so the weight kind of was hefty. This one doesn't have cameras in the controller. It still has some infrared dots for things to be tracked, but it feels really, really light. And having no ring is awesome because you're not smashing your headset. You're gonna feel comfortable, you're gonna get more immersed in your experience. The controllers will come with the exact same little dongle as you see here, but Meta did show off some new straps that make them pretty much index controllers. It replaces the battery cover, has a strap coming out, and you just slide it on and you have these light controllers that are attached to your hand, and oh man, that's gonna be the way to play this game. It is so good. Okay, so that's enough about the feel and the look of the headset. Let's actually talk about the experience. The first game that I was able to play was a mixed reality multiplayer brawler called BAM. It's very reminiscent of Super Smash Bros. You see this arena in front of you. You can actually scale the size of it, smaller, larger. But the cool thing is you can see your opponents because you're looking through the pass-through cameras. The game itself probably won't have a lot of replay value. It's just kind of punching you off. It's a king of the hill, get the crown on your head, but it will make for some entertaining matches with your friend. But none of that really matters because what I want to talk about is mixed reality. It's incredible on the Quest 3. When you first put on the headset, you're gonna have to create your Guardian like you would normally. But this one uses these new cameras and maps out your entire space. So it just sees it. You kind of look around your room like, wow, look at my room. And it'll find chairs, it'll find tables, desks, pets, people walking by. It'll map out your ceiling, your floor, and your walls just by you looking around, and it'll know your area. So it's a really quick process to get set up thanks to those cameras. And speaking of those cameras, look, coming from the Quest 2 and even the Quest Pro, the pass-through camera is magnitudes better. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. You still feel like you're looking through a low resolution camera instead of just like a pair of glasses, but you can easily see everything around you. You can see people's faces, you can read the text on your phone, that is absolutely true. The color is completely full, it's great. And thanks to the new depth sensor on the headset, which is right in the middle, that one black pill-shaped stripe, you're gonna be able to tell when you're gonna smash into your table a lot easier and a lot quicker. So the pass-through is good, it's really good, but it's really the MR graphics that are laid on top of it that are amazing. They're absolutely top-notch. The assets are clear and they interact with your surroundings naturally. To further illustrate this, the next game I played was a game called First Encounters. Some cute fuzzball aliens are going to invade your home and you have to blast them back into like a container by shooting at them with a thing. But in order to find them, you have to blast holes in the walls of your room. So you're shooting at these aliens and they're scurrying around and these holes are just appearing all around you. So you have your walls and it looks like your walls, but then behind them as you shoot holes, you have an alien planet. And you have these little alien creatures, like they're hopping over tables that are in your room. They're running around by your feet. Like these games don't currently have a lot of depth. There's not like a killer app for MR, but the capabilities on this Quest 3 is just, whoa, so good. That was really all the MR I played, but it stuck with me. I didn't expect the MR portion of the Quest 3 to interest me really much at all, but man, it is a selling feature of this headset. It is magnitudes better than anything they've created otherwise, and you can also swap between MR and VR really quickly. You just go boom, boom on the side, and it goes from VR to MR and you can see all around you. You tap again, boom, you're back into VR. It's great. So after those MR sections, I spent the next about 40 minutes playing some of the most exciting upcoming VR games. And before I dive into those, I just want to talk a little bit more about the performance of the VR section of the Quest 3. The Quest 3 felt buttery smooth. You know, sometimes you get that stutter when you like look around really quickly. Didn't notice that, and some of the games I'm going to talk about were pretty graphically intense. So I was really impressed with just how smooth the games felt. The graphics themselves are a noticeable upgrade. I didn't actually play any games that I'd previously played on the Quest 2, so I don't have a direct comparison in my mind, but they sent over some of this B-roll, which I'm going to throw up on the screen right now, and you're going to kind of see the difference of the graphics. Now, it's definitely not enough that you're going to swear off PC VR for good. but for a mobile headset, we're actually getting pretty darn close to the realm of low-end PC and console gaming. I really can't wait to see what the developers are going to be able to do with this chipset as it's explored further, because this is just like the first few games and everything always gets better and better. Like they just, increased the Quest 2 by like 40% really late into its life cycle. So this is, oh, it's gonna get wild.
Are you guys ready?
I think tracking was where a lot of people were kind of worried because the controllers don't have the rings anymore and the headset actually doesn't have a camera on the top of it. I was also kind of worried, but Meta has done some sort of like voodoo magic, and no matter what I tried, the tracking felt just as good as it did on the Quest 2. Yes, you're gonna lose tracking if you hold it behind your back for a long time, but their models, their AI, algorithm of figuring out where your hands should be, where they were before, you have plenty of time to swing them in and out. There was a section I was grabbing arrows out of my back, had no issues whatsoever with any of that. Okay, so let's talk about the games. The first VR game that I played was the big, grand, crazy, I can't wait for this game so much, Assassin's Creed Nexus. Now, many of us thought this game wasn't even gonna see the light of day, and then a lot of us thought it's probably just a tech demo. Let me tell you, it's not a full Assassin's Creed game. Those were like 50 hours, giant world exploration, romance, but it is definitely a full game. Now, I was hyped loading into this game and then loading some more, and then there was even more loading. There was a lot of loading into the game, but I really quickly understood why. So I got to play about 10 minutes of a mission that takes place in the middle of the game. I was Ezio Auditore. Swing, swing. And you arrive in this old Italian city via boat. You row your way to shore, and suddenly, you're in the thick of it. You're in an actual city. There are people walking around, and I had to remind myself I was playing on a mobile headset because the amount of NPCs, the amount of hustle and bustle going on around me was incredible. Now, the characters, they don't look incredible. There's a lot of like repeat models and stuff, but just the fact that I was in a full city where you could look around, you could go kind of, in a little bit of an area. You couldn't go everywhere. I think the mission was a little limited. So I don't know if there is a free roam or not later in the game, but it was a big section that you were in, and it felt like you were in a city. It was incredible. There were merchants and musicians, people giving speeches or simply going about their day. The number of people, the size of the city, and the way it actually looked totally explained why it took so long to load into the game. The Quest 2 is going to have a rough time with this one, I feel. So in the game, you got a sword on your hip, you got smoke bombs on your other hip, and then of course, you have the Assassin's Blade, and really, that's the only thing we care about, right? And it's cool. So you flick your hand like you're Spider-Man, right? Like you're shooting a web, boom, 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 and out pops the Assassin Blade. They look great, and I immediately was like, hey, can I stab people? And he's like, well, it's gonna, stop the mission. And I just went up to a townsperson, just stabbed them in the neck a bunch of times. Guys, it was so good. Unfortunately, that was about all the combat that I got to experience, so I'm really hoping it's more than just wiggling your sword, because Assassin's Creed was so much based on like parrying, defending, finding the openings, doing combos, and I really hope they nail the combat on this one. Now comes my one concern with the game, and that is parkour. There was a game called Stride, and I actually played a little bit of Stride Fates, which I will talk about next week. And that is a game that really nailed the parkour. You feel like you're jumping, you're grabbing, you're flipping. So in Assassin's Creed, it's kind of like the console game. You hold down a button, you hold down sprint, and the guy kind of automatically will parkour around stuff. It just didn't quite connect for me. So I had difficulty like pulling myself up ledges, and then like it would randomly spring me into different directions. Like I want to climb this wall, and it would have me grab this pole over here, and I'm like, no, and you want to adjust it and stuff. I'm sure with practice, like I was only in this game for about 10 minutes, you're gonna be able to make more sense of it. But the initial impression was pretty cumbersome, and I didn't feel like a crazy fluid assassin. But then, you nail some of the climbing, you reach the top of the tower, and the leap of faith is there, and it was so cool. So there's no vignette. I mean, you can turn, all the comfort options and stuff, but you go up there, you extend your arms, and you jump into a pile of hay, and you're like 10 stories up. I wasn't at the tallest building or anything, just a regular one, but man, you're flying through the air and you're hitting the hay and you go into stealth mode. Really, really cool. I am so much more hyped for this game, having played just 10 minutes of like a little being in a city. I think even the RP experience of like going around town talking to people, I grabbed some musician's instrument and I broke it. Like the possibilities for this one are really endless. I'm very excited. So the next game that I entered was Stranger Things, and I'm a huge fan of the show, really excited to see how it all closes out. But then you get the transition to virtual reality. And it's, you're playing as Vecna. You're the big bad guy. You've got some crazy powers and stuff. And it was pretty interesting going into it because this game has sections of both mixed reality and virtual reality. I started with the mixed reality where you're opening these portals around you, drawing in the upside down into reality, and they looked so good. Like things were just crawling open on my wall. You had little creatures coming and crawling on the furniture and stuff. It was an awesome thing. But then I actually tried to play the game and it went real bad for me. The motion controls would just not register my movements. I couldn't perform the simplest of tasks. I had this like giant bat flying around my face for like 5 minutes that you're supposed to like grab psychically and just crush. But he was just like going there and I kept doing the hand motions and it wouldn't give the guy, and it was so annoying. And then you go into the virtual reality section and once again, it looks pretty cool. It's got this comic book style. I like it. You're in the upside down. You're Vecna. You're shooting out strands of yourself to move around. But then I couldn't do the controls. Literally my entire mission in this game was to climb up a series of rocks to get to the top. And it took me like 3 to 4 minutes to do it. You're shooting out these like vine tentacle things like Spider-Man would, right? And then you pull yourself up. So there's not a lot of like walking, it's kind of like swinging, but the tentacles wouldn't go where I wanted them to go. I couldn't pull the tentacles, so I ended up like smacking into the rock 100 times. And instead of feeling like Vecna, this all-powerful being, I felt like a newborn giraffe just suddenly dropping out of my mother and being like, figure it out. So I'm really hoping they improve the controls on this game because I think the style of it's cool, but man, I couldn't do it. So next up was Samba De Amigo, a game that I really was not interested in whatsoever. Now I like rhythm games, don't get me wrong, love Beat Saber, but the maraca shaking monkey on like a mushroom trip with all the visuals, it just didn't hit my sweet spot. But man, when I jumped into that game, I realized how wrong I was. This game is stupid amounts of fun, and it differentiates itself enough to feel separate from Beat Saber or Synth Riders to really feel like its own rhythm game. So you're shaking your controllers a bunch to hit like a bunch of things, otherwise you're doing kind of like a rhythm. But then the game has you hit poses, so it's like, you do this. We're like, so you're hitting all these poses. It is just this really fun dance and rhythm that you're getting into as you move it along. You feel ridiculous, but anyone watching you is gonna have a blast. The visuals themselves are like a total fever dream. So much is happening around you. There's monkeys dancing, there's like food flying around, everything's alive and everything is just on drugs and it's wild. Some people are gonna hate it because they just wanna focus on like the visuals of, hitting the right notes and stuff, but some people are just gonna have a blast with this. Now this game also had a mixed reality feature where instead of all that stuff around you, you're in your room. I didn't get to play that, but it's really cool that all these VR games are kind of at least a little bit mixing in the mixed reality. No pun intended. So I ended my session with the Quest 3 in a game called Ghostbusters. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ghostbusters. Now, I recently saw some early impressions video of some YouTubers who went and played it at Gamescom, but I wasn't able to play the game enough to really confirm or deny any of that stuff. So apparently the game is very arcadey and it kind of gets repetitive. It's not really a phasmophobia type game, which is really what I initially thought it was going to be. But when I went in, it was basically just the tutorial. All I saw was a haunted mansion. And I got to play around with a bunch of the Ghostbusters tool, capture a few ghosts. The graphics looked really good on the Quest 3. Once again, totally buttery smooth, but how the actual game plays, I couldn't tell you at this point. And with that, I was done. I removed the Quest 3 from my head, and I have to say, I was impressed. Now, I knew the Quest 3 was going to be a step up from the prior headsets, but what I didn't know was in what ways it would be better. The graphics are better, yes. It allows more things to happen in the games and they feel smoother. Totally. The headset's going to feel better on your face and the controllers feel better in your hands? Absolutely. All of that I expected to an extent, but it was really the mixed reality that blew me away. I think there is so much potential for new experiences and games based around that technology, and I really can't wait to see what comes out. Even your Quest 3 home, instead of the spaces you have on the Quest 2, it can just be your house, but you can decorate it in MR. So you can have a portal to Asgard's Wrath right on your wall, and you just grab it, boom, you're going into the game. Or things that you unlock in games, you can have as like little decorations and stuff. It's really cool. So these VR games are embracing little sections of mixed reality, and I'm really excited to see where it all goes. So I cannot wait to get the actual, my own headset into my hands, and I can't wait for you to have yours too, because I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with the Quest 3. Till next time.